Can I get this scripture for you real quick? This is Galatians chapter 4 and verse 26.
All right, brother. What's your nationality?
Because you said we come from Africa. It reads thus. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. So Jerusalem is the true motherland. Mesopotamia, the so-called Middle East. You know, the land of Africa, you know, it wasn't originally known as the land of Africa. It was called the land of Ham. Right? Because
it was a different name.
Yeah, America, it's like Africa was colonized. Yeah. Yeah. So you got Leo Scipio Africanus. He conquered the land of Africa from Hannibal during the Second Punic Wars. So that land wasn't even called the land of Africa. It was known as the land of Ham. So Cushites, those are Hamites. Even when you read the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, it tell you who the dark races are. Right? I want to show you something real quick. You believe in the Bible?
Somewhat.
Somewhat, right? Now let me ask you something. How did so-called black people get to America?
Therefore,
did we come over here willingly, or was we forced over here?
I believe we already here.
Also obtain the salvation.
Well, you had indigenous people already in the land, but you actually had a slave trade that did happen, right? The transatlantic slave trade. Yeah, we already know, like, even in
as far as like Sumerian times and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. You already had people over here dwelling in this land.
We were everywhere.
Right, but my focal point is the slave trade. Did the slave trade actually happen? Right, so let me get a scripture for you. This Deuteronomy 28 and 68. Are you familiar with Moses?
Yeah, of course.
The Israelites?
Yes.
Okay, what were the Israelites doing in Egypt?
That I do not know.
Okay, the Israelites, they were slaves in Egypt. You ever seen that movie, Prince of Egypt?
I don't recall.
Okay, so you had, you ever heard that saying, I'm working like a Hebrew slave?
Like a what?
A Hebrew slave. You probably never heard that saying before. But that's a common saying amongst black people, I'm working like a Hebrew slave. Because you had the Hebrew Israelites, they were slaves in Egypt. Those are the ones that built up the pyramids for Pharaoh and the Egyptians. You know, Egypt was the world powerhouse at the time. So they had slaves, right? So the point is, Egypt means slavery. I'm about to get a precept for you. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again. This is the Lord speaking to the Israelites. If they broke his commandments and disobeyed the Father, the Lord said he will bring them back into Egypt again. Egypt means slavery. I'm about to get it for you right here. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 2. I got to prove all things. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Right? So Egypt was known as the house of bondage. Even in the Hebrew, it's Mizraim, right? Double shots, it means stuck between a rock and a hard place. So even when you go into the Hebrew, it means to be constrained. So like Egypt means slavery, right? Because somebody had to build up those pyramids, and we was the ones that built it up. That's also in Exodus, the first chapter. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again, which is slavery, the house of bondage again, with ships. That's how black people got to America. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. We never been back to our homeland as a collective nation of people. Right? We the only people that don't know our homeland. You got a homeland you can go back to, right? Which is Ethiopia, correct? Right? You got Chinese people that can go back to China. Right? You got the so-called white man that can go back to Russia, Europe, and it's different lands, even though they're not really from there. Right? They're really from the caves of the earth. Right? But it say,
I never thought of it like that. That's actually deep.
Yeah. Yeah, it say, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Now, what people were sold to their enemies off of slave boats? So-called black people. Right, so the point I'm making is we are the real Israelites, the real Jews, because we call ourselves black, right? But that's just the color of your pants.
Yeah, that's just a color.
That's just a color.
We're not a color.
Do Ethiopians call themselves black?
No, we're not a color. We don't consider ourselves a color.
Exactly, but we the only people that does that because we don't know who we are. We're lost.
That comes through like systematic repression as well. Like,
Exactly.
It
was made to believe that by our enemies.
Exactly. Which is,
You know, the so-called white man. But not only the white man though, but all the nations, because all the nations really hate us, man. I just seen videos of Ethiopians being racist toward black people.
Yeah, I mean, slightly, man. The thing is, Ethiopians are racist to Ethiopians. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's like 50-something tribes in Ethiopia where
If I'm not
Same
mistaken, I believe
division.
Ethiopia created like the caste system. As far as the caste system, if I'm not mistaken, like the black and the white thing, did they create that? The black or the white thing, did they create that caste system?
No, to where like there's a separation.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. That's just something I heard. But
Okay, no, you got that wrong. Bro. You know we're African, right? Like we consider ourselves like part
Yeah.
of,
Yeah, they come from Kush.
Yeah, but like no, Abyssinia, yeah, Abyssinia, like Lower Egypt type.
Yeah. I wish I had the Zondervan Bible Dictionary and tell you who the Cushites are. But this is Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 12. Because you have to understand, we're not the same people. But go ahead.
Yeah, we're not, but we are at the same time. What I'm asking is like,
What's up?
I'm not gonna say this, man. I don't speak English very well.
What does it have to do with?
I'm trying to say it in the right terms.
Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 2.
So,
I have likened
what do
the
you
daughter of
consider
Zion.
Ethiopians as? I want to ask you.
Hamites.
Hamites.
Yeah. You heard of Hamites before?
No.
Yeah, that's your biblical nationality, really. You're a Cushite, but you come from Ham. Like we're the Israelites, but we come from a man named Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. Everybody on the earth comes from a man. Everybody. Everybody that's living on this earth comes from a man's seed. You have to trace back to what man you come from. And according to the Bible, you come from a man named Ham. Because Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And through those men was the earth populated. So this is Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 12.
What's your belief?
Okay, we believe that we're the Israelites, God's chosen people. We're above all nations of the earth. What people play the best basketball, football? Right? What people
Athleticism in general.
athleticism in general, as far as entertainment, we're the face of entertainment. Even though we don't run it, but we're the face of it because we're the salt of the earth. We're the best people. Right? Even on the intellectual level, they would try to make it seem like black people are dumb, but the black people created a lot of things, a lot of inventions. The drop box, you know.
If you're talking about new stuff, I'm talking about like,
Talking about ancient stuff.
way back when the Moors were in time. You know?
Yeah. And the Moors were so-called black people. You know, Moor means dark.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
Europeans were savages.
The wild man. Yeah. Yeah, but this is what the Lord said about the Cushites though, because you have to understand the white man, he's the devil, but all the other nations outside of Israel conspired against us. Even the Ethiopians, they conspire against so-called black people. They hate us. I'm about to show you. Let's get Psalm 34. So like in Psalm 33. I just told you I seen an account where Ethiopians being directly racist to a so-called black man. Why is that there? They call us monkeys. They say we don't know nothing, right? They say we're unintelligent, right? All nations hate us, brother, right? We're not brother, but let's get Psalm chapter 83, verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more remembered. That's why we don't know who we are. We call ourselves blacks, African American, Negro, nigger, thug. Why do we call ourselves that? Because our nationality was stripped away from us due to crafty counsel. Hold on. They say the tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gabal, Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Tyre and Zidon are ancient Hamitic nations. So even the Hamites conspire against us. Even just think about the UN building. We don't have a part in the UN building, but Africa does. The United Nations, Africa has a seat within that UN building. The so-called black man doesn't. Right? Now,
because you consider it a part of the nation.
Now I will say this. You do have Israelites scattered in those lands. You have so-called black people dwelling in the land of Africa, right? Because that was a curse. Yeah. So I mean, you might be an Israelite. I don't know.
It's not even that.
But you might be a Hamite, and if you're a Hamite, man, you gotta go to slavery, man. You going into slavery if you a Hamite, if you a Cushite.
What does that mean? Why would a Hamite go into slavery? And why
Because-
would a Cushite not?
Because you have to understand that during the transatlantic slave trade, you had Africans and Arabs that got together and sold us to the so-called white man. That's how the transatlantic slave trade happened. It was due to profit. It wasn't white people coming over kidnapping so-called black people. It wasn't happening like that. It was nations conspiring and selling us to the so-called white man. And one of those nations in particular was the African man. So your people had a part of slavery as well. That's in Luke 21 and 24.
Well, you know we're all the way in the east, right?
It doesn't matter, right?
So you're saying we came all the way to the west side of Africa.
Yeah, all nations,
just to push-
listen, all nations had a benefit in us going into slavery. All nations benefit off our slavery. This is Luke chapter 21 and verse 24.
How so? And who's the one?
Well, I'm gonna
who's the
say,
benefactor? Like,
hold
who's the
on,
one-
hold on. We wasn't, but you have to understand. Listen, you have to understand too. It wasn't just us on the west coast of Africa. You had black people in Europe. You had black people in Ireland. You had black people all over the world, even in your land. That's what I'm saying. So it wasn't just the transatlantic slave trade didn't just happen in the west coast of Africa. It also happened in Europe as well and all over the earth.
100%.
Right?
But what
This is
sparked
Luke.
that is what I'm saying. Who was the one getting paid and who was the one paying? Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's in Joel the 3rd chapter. I can
White
explain
people-
that.
yeah,
Let's
I
get
want
Luke
you to
chapter
explain
21 verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Right? So we fell by the edge of sword and we was led away captive into all nations, including your nation.
This has to be something that's been happening for like hundreds, or at least like, okay, not thousands, but hundreds or tens of years, you know what I mean?
And that's why the Lord said this about
Conspiracy against like what? Everybody was cool, we were running the earth, all of a sudden it just snapped like that and comes to this? No.
well, we wasn't all cool to begin with. Right? Slavery is not a new thing. It's always been slavery, even from the beginning.
way back.
Right. But the point is, y'all enslaved God's chosen people, which is a problem, which is an issue. The Lord is going to stand up for the cause of his people and judge the nations that oppress us. This is Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 12. This is what the Lord said. This is in the Bible. Ye Ethiopians also, ye shall be slain by my sword. This is what the Lord said about the Ethiopians for oppressing his chosen people. That's in the Bible, man.
That's fucked.
Let's get 2 Chronicles chapter 14 and verse 12.
You believe in the Anunnaki?
See not.
Right?
It says, so the Lord smote the Ethiopians before Asa and before Judah, and the Ethiopians fled. And Asa and the people that were with him pursued them unto Gerar, and the Ethiopians were overthrown, that they could not recover themselves, for they were destroyed before the Lord and before his host, and they carried away very much spoil. That's what the Lord said about the Ethiopians, for oppressing his people, for being wicked nations of the earth. So you gotta deal with it, man.
Yeah, I mean, but I gotta ask you, you believe in like the Anunnaki?
Yeah, we heard of the Anunnaki. Yeah. What do you believe about the Anunnaki? We heard about that.
I just have not even a fundamental understanding. It's just surface level. I'm just hearing about it recently.
Right. I mean, what exactly is that? Because I've heard about it, but I never looked into it. So what exactly is that?
Sumerian gods.
Sumerian gods?
But I feel like
Well, you know, the Sumerians worship false gods. The Sumerians were wicked. They were.
definitely everything you said.
I mean, they were. The gods of our fathers, you know, the Sumerians they weren't right, brother. A lot of that stuff was, you know, paganism. Yeah. For example, like the Queen of Heaven, Ishtar. The Babylonians worship Ishtar. Ishtar is the Queen of Heaven, and what they call it now today is Easter. So when people celebrate Easter, they're actually worshiping a pagan god. For example, do your people celebrate Easter and Christmas and things of that nature, or do y'all have your own customs and cultures?
It's a different custom. I mean, not even just culture and customs. It's like calendar is different as well. So we have 13 months in a month. I mean, in a year.
Okay.
So it's like everything operates different. Times are different. But at the same time,
Same thing with us as Israelites, as the real Jews.
I feel like that's
Our beginning of the year starts in springtime, right? Because that's when new life springs forth. The so-called white man told you it's January 1st. How can the beginning of the year start smack dead in the winter,
Right.
where there's no life springing forth? Everything is dead.
March is real.
Yeah. So you come from the east side of the world, so a lot of our customs may be similar, right? This Western world is freaked out, right? That's why even when your people come here and they get Americanized, they forsake their culture and what they was brought up in, right? And things of that nature. That's what the Lord said about the Ethiopians, man. That's in the Bible. So you better pray you an Israelite scattered, because if you're not, man, you got to go to slavery.
How so? Like, when you say slavery, you mean like mental slavery? I mean, this is slavery technically. I am in America.
Physical slavery and bondage when Jesus Christ returned. You know, Jesus Christ is an actual man that walked the earth. He's the king of the Jews, the real Israelites. He was a Jew, so-called black man. You know about UFOs? You believe in UFOs?
Yes, sir. I do completely, 100%.
Who you think riding those UFOs?
The different species of different star galaxies, star systems, and like all types of things.
What if I told you that?
Imagine like the most.
What if I told you that angels of the Lord riding those UFOs?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta understand this. They might not be literal angels, but
Literal
I
angels.
tell you something.
I'm about to show you, but go ahead.
You know what I mean?
They say if you love the world, man, the love of the Father.
I'm about to show you,
Living
man.
their stories.
I'm about to show you. That's in the Bible.
Yeah.
Watch
We're
this.
the ones reading their story. You know what I mean?
This Second
Imagine
Kings.
there's a whole movie going on up there. You know what I'm saying? We're the audience.
Right. So the so-called UFOs are known as chariots in the Bible. 2 Kings chapter 6 verse 14. Therefore sent he thither horses and chariots in a great host, and they came by night and compassed the city about. And when the servant of the man of God was risen early and gone forth, behold, an host compassed the city both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, Alas, my master, how shall we do? And he answered, Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. Check this out, verse 17. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. Now we know this is not talking about actual horses, because what horse can catch on fire and still be, that's not,
It's a UFO.
it's a UFO, it's a chariot, right? And then check this out. And when they came down to Elisha, prayed unto the Lord and said, Smite this people, I pray thee, with blindness. And he smote them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. And check this out also. This is 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 11. And it came to pass, as he still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. Woo! That's a chariot. That's a so-called UFO. You know? So the point I'm making is, when the Lord make his second coming, he's coming back with chariots. You ever seen that movie Independence Day? See, a UFO, they call it the mothership, but we know it as the fathership. So Christ is going to come back with these chariots, and he's going to render vengeance upon the nations that oppress his people. And he's going to bring world dominance to his chosen people, and he's going to set us up in our stead. And so-called black people, Hispanic, Native American, the 12 tribes, we're going to be the next ruler of the planet Earth. That's the Bible. Check this out. I want to show you that real quick before you go. Isaiah chapter 66 and verse 15. It say, For behold, for behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. So you better pray you an Israelite, man.
Well, I'm not. No, it doesn't matter.
If you're not, you're gonna go to slavery, bondage under the Israelites, right? And we're not just gonna do how the white man did us. You know, the white man broke men. You know what I'm saying? He hung us from trees all night. He fed our children to alligators. When we are the next rulers of the planet Earth, we're gonna set everything up in order, right? We're not just gonna kill nations just because we don't like them. It has to be a justifiable reason why we kill a nation. You know?
And I feel like that was one of the reasons.